What do you guys think of this franchise on the whole? I know that's a loaded question.
Where's it
They're
begin?
the greatest movies ever made. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, Jay's picking up
For the audio listeners, Jay has brought up a
the
visual
box set.
aid.
All right,
Oh,
so
okay,
I'm
the box
definitely a
set.
fan.
Okay.
The box set includes up until what film?
9?
This
up to
one,
9?
no, this is an older one. This includes up to 7, maybe. This
Okay,
one might be
where
up to 7.
the franchise was clearly done at that point, as
I was
Brendan
gonna
noted
say,
earlier.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. Furious 7.
Fate
was
of the Furious. Fate of the
Oh,
Furious.
it includes.
Oh, to 8, which of course that makes sense.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But it does not include Hobbs and Shaw, right?
No Hobbs and Shaw. No F9. Hobbs and Shaw. Let's just skip to that one. An abomination. Truly,
It's bad.
It's
Yeah,
my
it's
least
bad.
absolutely horrendous.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you called it Jay. The
Oh,
most cynical movie ever made.
Nice little twist here. Fate of the Furious sold separately. They have it on there. It's an advertisement
coming
for
2017.
Fate of the Furious.
So basically,
So
that
it
means you have
has-
to buy it separately in order to include it in this.
But
box.
But it has
course.
it has a sleeve for it, but it hasn't come out yet. So
course.
that's
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
cute. That's just
that's
cute.
that's dirty. That's some dirty business right
Just
there.
wait a few more years, Jay, and when they re-release that box set, you'll have twice as many movies.
But here's the thing. Those are the only ones I want. The 7, you guys said it. The 7 it's over. That's fine. I
Yeah.
think everyone since
Really-
7
it
has
was
been
a great
bad.
send-off. It was
really
it was
is,
immaculate.
and it's not just a send off for Paul Walker. It actually is like,
the series.
emotionally. It feels
Yeah.
like a send off for every character in that movie. Like it actually feels
Yeah.
like an emotional payoff for everybody.
But see, and this is why I am dubious about this franchise ending with Fast 10 and Fast 10 Your Seatbelts, the sequel, because once these two come out, and even if there's a third one, let's just pretend that Vin Diesel let the cat out of the bag. There's
Fast 10
actually a
Your
trilogy
Seatbelts
to
again.
end this thing. I still don't believe that that's the end because these movies make money and Universal likes to make money and they will pay these actors very well to keep this franchise going. They're going to find a way to just
They'll
continue
find
this
a way,
forever.
even if it's just more Fast and Furious presents cynical bullcrap. That they'll
Well,
like. It
I
might not
think-
be Hobbs and Shaw again, but it might
Yeah.
be. Might
That
be
one didn't
someone
do
else.
very well.
No spin-offs, because my theory is we want to get to, Vin Diesel anyway wants to get to 30. So we can get to Fast XXX and then have his
he's not getting
ultimate
that Guardians
crossover.
cash anymore.
He's got to get that crossover of the XXX franchise and Fast and Furious. That's where we take the franchise to a new level.
Honestly,
I think it-
just go there. I
You know,
guess.
well,
don't know.
I think that's what this franchise kind of needs is a weird crossover like that. I mean, I know there's this often cited joke that because Universal Studios also owns the rights to the Jurassic franchise, just have the dinosaurs show up. And honestly, do you know how many people would go to the theater for that crap?
Look,
I mean,
I'm not against it. At this point, they've already been to
E.T.
space.
and Vin
They've been
Diesel?
to space.
like Vin Diesel fighting a raptor. Of course, I want to see that.
Yeah.
Well, it
I'm
is.
not
You know,
against
you
it.
talk about that like what we want is this totally bombastic, crazy. What was so good about it for so long up through 7 was that it was a very sincere series.
That's the difference is, you can be dumb, goofy fun, but you can actually have a sense of respect
It wore its
and
heart on its
sincerity.
sleeve.
Yeah, like it was kind of, dare I say, sweet, right? And
Yeah.
like especially this like there's like this weird trilogy that's kind of funneled in the middle of this saga, which is Fast 5 through 7.
5, 6,
Almost-
and 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
kind of its own trilogy. Like I feel like those three almost have their own identity of sorts. But I mean, there's a lot of sincerity in those three movies. Like
There is.
they don't take themselves seriously, but they care about it themselves, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
I think they get back to it a little bit more in 9 than they did in 8.
They
But
tried.
It's
They
not,
tried.
It's
God, I
not the
thought 9
same.
was
It's not the same.
bad.
I agree.
The problem with 9, I think, was you can just sort of sense that Justin Lin felt kind of disconnected from
Yeah.
his desire for making one of these again. It felt more like a business move than it did a genuine one.
Yeah.
And you can kind of sense that in the final product. But I mean,
That's a
I do
very-
think it was.
It's a very
I do-
rubbery movie too. That's
Well,
CGI.
I do like it slightly more than Fate of the Furious. I'll at least give it that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I agree. Yeah.
Pass. Both.
Jay's
Well, Fate of the Furious and Hobbs and Shaw are my two least favorites in the franchise, and it's not even close.
yeah.
But just think about how emotionally potent the end of 7 was.
Yeah.
It was truly.
I agree, and maybe that's why I dislike Fate as much as I do. Because it just feels like an afterthought, and I don't think F. Gary Gray, as much as I like him as a director, was the right choice for that franchise. I think like he's someone that takes himself a little too seriously for this kind of franchise, and I felt that in that movie.
It felt the most.
7 was
uneven.
kind of the one where I was like, James Wan is a beast.
He's a weirdo. He's a weirdo.
For him to cobble that movie together the way that he did, given the circumstances, and that's my favorite. That's my favorite Fast and Furious movie is 7.
I like 5. That might be my second.
5
favorite,
is great.
Five
is great.
I'm high on 7 as well. I'm with you there, Jay.
Yeah.
And it for him to have taken those circumstances and turned it into a film that is simultaneously that emotional and that thrilling, I think is such an achievement. One, I mean, he's my guy. Look, Malignant. Come on now. And
Aquaman,
the best, one of the best superhero movies of the millennium. He's my guy.
Yeah.
And he brings all of his kind of camera tricks to that film, and I love that. But what do you guys? Let's go back to the beginning. What have you guys watched the first Fast and Furious anytime recently?
A few years ago,
I revisited them all. Yeah, before one of the movies.
They're stealing DVD players.
Yeah. It's wild.
Well, I think weirdly, like it's a movie that completely shifts when you look at what comes after. Like in retrospect, the movie is a completely different beast now. But back in the day, it was Point Break with cars instead of surfboards. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead of, I would say Swayze and Keanu to Diesel and Paul Walker's a little bit of a downgrade.
It's a little bit of a
As
downgrade.
is Bigelow to whatever the monster who directed that.
Was that
first
Rob
Fast and Furious
Cohen?
is.
I think
can't
it
remember
was.
his name.
Rob Cohen,
Very,
I think.
very, very bad man. But
I mean, to be fair,
it's a fascinating movie to go and watch. And then especially if you watch 2, I maintain that Too Fast, Too Furious, in addition to being the genesis of one of the great sequel jokey names ever, is one of the most aesthetically influential movies of the 2000s. You think about Pimp My Ride. You think about, that whole thing. So many rap videos in the 2000s were that aesthetic. The neon lights.
Oh, yeah. That movie glows. It literally glows.
Yeah. I like that movie. It's extraordinarily stupid. I mean, it is.
I agree.
It is beyond stupid.
I love that about it.
That is it is, and maybe we give, or I personally, put too much emphasis on, a filmmaker leaving his or her mark on a movie. But John Singleton leaves his mark on that movie, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a distinct style.
Yeah. So for those people listening, hoping that we were going to be really unkind to Too Fast, Too Furious, I don't think that's going to be the case. Because I don't think I like it as much as you do, Jay. I would say of the first 3 films, at least, it is my least favorite of the 3. But I have this weird respect for it because of how vibrant and colorful that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it also is maybe the first one in this franchise to at least give us a moment of what this franchise would ultimately become, and that's when all million of those cars exit that garage at the same time. I mean, that feels like it was almost foreshadowing what this franchise would be. So
that's a good point.
You kind of have to thank the film for its existence. It's basically the Mission Impossible 2 of the franchise.
That's exactly what it is, because a lot of people just absolutely hated it because of how stupid and stylish it was.
But isn't that becoming kind of like this interesting like reversal of course now, given the landscape of blockbusters now, that we kind of go back and almost have a sense of gratitude for how like vibrantly stupid these movies were, because they were at least different. And that's how I feel about Too Fast, Too Furious. I think it's an interesting movie.
And that's how I feel about Mission Impossible too. So there you go.
And Too Fast, Too Furious still made $237 million at the box office.
Oh yeah, it killed.
Yeah.
It killed. Which is so bizarre that they basically made a Tokyo Drift, which I like a lot, is one step above a direct-to-video movie. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like them burning
All new
the
characters.
goodwill that they have for the franchise. Yeah.
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 But
and there's
it's
something
good.
really it is good. And there's something culturally interesting about Tokyo Drift. Now, I like the way they utilize driving as like a language you have to learn, especially in
Yeah.
a new culture. So there, I don't know if
Yeah.
that was the film's intent, but it almost
Yeah.
has this
interesting parallel there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, really, my biggest problem with Tokyo Drift is that I don't necessarily love Lucas Black in the main role. I kind of wish it was really Han's movie.
Quarterback from Friday Night
Han is
Lights.
awesome. Han's one of the best characters of them all, if not the best.
And what's his full name?
Han.
Han Solo.
Of course.
I was waiting for the joke. I just was going to get quiet.
No,
for that
that's
one.
not a joke. That's his name.
Yeah, I know. I was just waiting for you to drop the ball like that.
Yes. Oh, did we lose Jay?
Oh, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear me?
You froze
we can
for a
hear you.
second.
His name is Han Solo. I don't know if y'all heard that. That's his name
Yeah, we
canonically
did, yeah.
in the
Yeah.
series.
Yeah. I was just waiting for you to drop that ball like that because it's just hilarious.
Yeah,
Speaking of
great.
Han, have you guys ever seen the movie Better Luck Tomorrow? It's I
Negative.
think is it Justin Lin's first movie? It might be, but it's this crime drama of sorts involving Asian American high school seniors specifically, and one of the characters is Han. And Justin Lin has confirmed it is the same Han that we see in this franchise. So it's kind of like this quasi prequel of sorts. And it's actually a really good movie. It's actually a very good high school thriller of sorts. And if we are including it here, I think it's one of the better films in this franchise. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but I think it's
I'll have to check this out. I'll probably watch that later this week.
I
if I'm being honest.
have heard of it. Yeah, but So what else has Justin Lin done? Did he do the Star Trek, the last Star Trek?
Yeah, the more I think about it, it might be my favorite Star Trek film ever. I love Star Trek Beyond. I think that movie rocks. Yeah, he did do that.
And then he directed. How many Fast movies has he directed? He directed 3.
5 of them, I think.
Yeah.
Because
Fast
he
and
did
Furious in 2009,
4?
Fast 5, 6, and then he's doing
F9.
10.
He
and
did
9
F9.
and 10. Yeah.
But then
Well, he didn't.
Tokyo
He
Drift.
didn't do
He
10.
also did Tokyo Drift.
Louis Leterrier replaced him on 10.
Yeah, but it's 5 official ones because you had Tokyo Drift, Fast and Furious, Fast 5, Fast and Furious 6, and then F9.
And then he's a
And then-
producer, right? On
And then
X.
producer. But then if we want to count Better Luck Tomorrow with this whole thing, then I guess we could say 6, but that's maybe more like 5.5, I guess, at this point.
Is he credited on 10?
He
as
might
a
be
producer and writer.
as a producer, not as a screenwriter,
Not
though,
as
but I think
not as the director, like
No.
a co-director.
no. I think he wanted
Did
off
he
that
start
project.
off as the
Video early
director?
on.
Oh yeah.
did,
You remember
yeah,
that
Diesel-
whole that whole video that
yes.
Vin
Yes,
Diesel
that's
posted
correct.
where
yes,
where
I
it looked
remember
like
that,
Justin Lin was so like emotionally disconnected from.
It looks like he's being held hostage.
Yeah. Yeah. And then he get out of there real fast.
Where like Vin Diesel just asks him, "Is this going to be the best one?" And Justin Lin's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know. Then they brought on everybody's favorite action filmmaker, Louis Leterrier.
Which, I, mean, I like the Transporter movies. I think they're fun.
Yeah. I think The Incredible Hulk is one of my favorites of Marvel Phase 1, actually. Or one of the more underrated, anyway.
I kind of like it. I don't hate it. I think it's
Yeah.
okay.
What did you guys
Underrated
think
in
of?
that people hate it.
A lot of people do. I mean,
A lot of
really
people
like
do,
it.
yeah.
I don't like it.
Of course. You don't like anything Marvel. That's why we don't talk about
No,
it. on
no,
That's
we're done
not
with
true.
Mostly true. It's 95%.
All right,
true.
kids, let's transition.
That is not true. It's not true. I'm stoked. I still haven't seen Guardians 3 yet. I'm super stoked to check it out.
That is one you'll like, I think. Yeah.
I hope so.
I'm confident you'll like that one. But who knows?
But then kind of on theme of the episode, where the franchise shifts is with The Fast and the Furious, in my opinion. I don't know if y'all agree with that.
Which one?
2009, The Fast and the Furious.
That's the first one. The fourth one's just
no,
called
it's
Fast
the
and Furious.
oh, they did a reverse.
yeah, it's
Usually
the
they
reverse.
do the
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Fast and the Furious.
My
So
bad.
for the fourth one, they just removed the thes.
Yeah.
It's cleaner.
Yeah, it's cleaner.
Drop the.
But I like
The
this is where it gets interesting because I mean I think there's an argument to be made it shifts with Tokyo Drift and then it shifts again with
That's
Fast and
fair.
Furious. And then you can argue it shifts again in 5. Like cuz that has a whole different style and
It's kind of
tone,
like
really.
a ramping up to 5 with 4, where they're like, okay, this is ridiculous now.
Yeah. Not
And
quite
then
Fast
5 is like, this
but
is
it's getting
more
there. Yeah.
ridiculous.
I
now.
think I think the difference is it was kind of upping itself as it went along, like you're saying. But Fast 5 was when people took notice of it and were able to accept
Yes.
the absurdity of it. And I think that's why many people look at Fast 5 as the
Like the pivot point.
as the real pivot point. When you're not wrong, I think that pivot was slowly working itself as it went to Fast 5.
It was the
but-
appetizer. That's
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Fast and Furious is the appetizer at Jay's restaurant.
yeah,
We'll
which
have
is
to come
which
up
is
with
in-
a better name, but
Oh, I didn't even say the title of the restaurant. It's Feast and Furious.
Feast and Furious.
Feast and Furious.
I love that so much.
That's actually really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. We're gonna lose this idea. Someone's gonna steal
Fast
it. God.
and Furious appetizers.
Yep. Yep.
I guess that's what we'll label it on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
And then Fast 5 is kind of where things pivot.
Yeah. I do feel like the fourth outing, Fast and Furious, which does kind of slowly allude to that pivot point. It didn't go as noticed as heavily because I feel like that's the one film that kind of does take itself very seriously, and maybe that's kind of the self-awareness of it. It kind of has like an almost like soap opera kind of feel to it. And I feel like the film has become kind of divisive because of that. I know some people who think Fast and Furious is one of the better outings, and then other people who think it's the worst one. It's kind of an interesting
the tone
anomaly.
is the big thing for me because yes,
Yeah.
it has some of that bombacity that would eventually lead to the later films.
Yeah.
But I do feel like the tone in 5 and even into 6 a little bit was way different than what Fast and
Yeah.
Furious was.
Yeah.
And I think 7 would have carried that tone even further without the outside circumstances. Obviously, that
Right,
changed it a little
right.
bit more. But again, that film did take. I hate to use this phrase, take advantage of, but it did take a horrible situation and they melded it into the franchise.
Made the
in a
best
really
out of
great
a
way.
bad situation.
Yeah,
did,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. I completely agree. And then they get into all the more bizarre, zany territory in 8 and 9.
I gotta admit, I'm
For
not
better or
remembering
worse.
6 very well.
I kind of remember 6 well, primarily because it came out in 2013. And that's a year that I think I'll just forever hold close to my chest because it was the first year of doing InSession films. So
Sure.
And this year in particular, it's been top of mind because all of those films turned 10 years old. So Fast and Furious 6 is about to celebrate its 10th anniversary. And I think I remember that film. One, there's again the whole idea of family. I think is done very well in that movie as well. And then one of my favorite action sequences of the entire thing
that's
is
the
the
Gina
tank
Carano
sequence.
one.
Yeah,
And-
that's
and-
that, and Luke Evans as the villain in that one.
Yep.
Yep.
And the tank sequence is
the
memorable
rampy cars.
because one they're fighting a tank on a highway, and then I also feel like in terms of the franchise, just upping the ante in terms of what we expect out of these movies. Because Fast 5, you get the vault sequence, which is out of this
That's
world,
an
but
all-time heist of the modern
it's
era.
great. No,
It is.
don't get me wrong. There's something great about it, but also it doesn't, I think, quite burst the seams of what we would get with some of the action sequences.
There's
we
something
get
kind of
later.
tangible about it. Like
Yes.
it's almost like Justin Lin knew how over the top and abandoning of the laws of physics that it was, but somehow that still felt like there was a weight to it. Like
Yes, it felt a little grounded despite its
Yeah.
bombacity.
it made me believe that they were really doing
Yes.
that.
And then in 6, I feel like you really do burst through those seams when they're up against a freaking tank on a highway, which leads to Vin Diesel supermaning himself over the highway, catching
That-
a
yeah.
human being and landing on another car on the other side of the highway. Like that to me is like, we have gone to full superhero movie now. Like completely different level than what we were even in 5. And since then, they've been trying to up the ante in all of these movies, getting to Fast 8, which, we mentioned earlier was one of the weaker movies in the franchise, and I do agree with that. However, in a microcosm, again, this team in vehicles, not fighting a tank, not trying to escape a tank, but a submarine, which has these nuclear missiles that they are redirecting to destroy things. Like that just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I wrote on my letterbox for that movie, like, okay, cars race against the submarine, a torpedo, and heat seeker missiles. How many more films until we get to space? That's what I wrote.
Just one
in
more,
2017. And the answer was
behold.
one more film.
Yeah. And to be fair, that whole scene was kind of a wasted opportunity. It felt like it just felt like an afterthought, which I guess I kind of admire because it was really just, in many ways, it was kind of like the Illuminati scene from Multiverse of Madness, just kind of giving something the fans ask for just to get it off their chest. But yeah,
bit.
like I feel so conflicted about Fate of the Furious, the 8th outing, because it's a film I don't like very much at all, but there are 2 sequences in it that I think are all-timers in the franchise.
Is that the one with the baby Statham sequence?
Well, okay, actually 3. There are 3 sequences in that movie that I think are all-timers. That's the Shaws with the baby. You also have that submarine chase that you're talking about, JD. And then there's the opening race in this like broken, dilapidated Beetle, which opens the movie. That's there are great sequences in a movie that I just don't think collectively works.
I agree. That's a great way to articulate it. Yeah.